First impressions matter. We've heard this time and time again. But this does not just apply to you and the first time you meet someone, it applies to your business. And your branding is that first impression that your ideal clients get. In seconds, they get an understanding of who you are and what your business is all about, which is great news if you've perfected your branding, but bad news if it's been a while since you addressed it. Because let's be honest, if you've been in business for a while, it's likely that your branding has taken the back burner. And I'm not just talking about the font you use or your Instagram templates. I'm talking about how your brand accurately reflects who you serve and how you serve your clients. And our guest today believes that your brand should be doing the selling for you. So let's talk about how to get in touch with your true brand identity, your client's perception of you, and how to turn your big, messy ideas into a curated and clear message. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Her Business Podcast. I'm Susie, I'm the CEO at Her Business, and I am your host. And our topic today is one that I believe is deeply misunderstood, especially amongst small business owners. Because when I say branding, what comes to mind? For many people, it's font choices or colours or what you decide to wear at your next photo shoot. And while all those things are important, branding goes a lot deeper. Your branding is often the first thing your ideal clients will see of you. It's the first thing that makes you a recognizable business. And today we're not just talking about what is bad branding, we're also talking about how to get your branding so spot on that it does the work for you. It actually sells for you. So by the time your clients get to your landing page or your website or they get that sales call, they already know that they want to buy from you because they already know you and they vibe with what your brand stands for. Now, this is a topic within sales and marketing that can get overlooked when there are more flashy topics like social media and sales funnels and other marketing strategies. But your branding is your foundation. It's your base and it's what we want to build from. And that's why we brought in the incredible Naomi Gora to talk about this topic. She is the CEO of Brand Whisperers. She helps business owners align their brand with their personality type and their personal values. And she also teaches her clients how to let branding do the selling for them. She helps business owners have that aha moment by realizing not just their vision, but how to communicate that vision right inside of their brand. And let me tell you now, she is an expert at her craft, and I can't wait for you to hear this interview because it is filled to the brim with the good stuff. Ready to jump in? Here we go. Naomi, hey, and welcome to the show.
Oh, hi, Susie. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to speak to you. We haven't talked in a little while, but we were just catching up before starting this recording and talking about how you've made some changes in your business. You're finding new ways that speak more directly to small business owners. And that is exactly who's listening. So I'm very excited to dive into our interview today.
Very excited.
Now, Thank you. Now, you've worked with clients across so many different industries, and you seem to be able to really find what is the core of each brand's identity. And brand applies, of course, whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're a multinational. How do you go about uncovering the essence of a brand, of a business? And what can someone listening do to get a clearer vision of what their own brand identity is?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, you're right. I do work across a lot of industries. I think sometimes when you're in business, there's sort of a need to niche down, but I have not done that by industry. I've done that more so by positioning, so branding and marketing positioning. So I tend to work with like market leaders or innovators. So that is sort of my niche. And I guess how I get to the core of who they are is that I don't ask them.
You don't ask them?
I don't ask them to tell me. I think this is the number one mistake. So often when you go to branding, branding studios, you fill in a brief and they say, what colours do you like? And, what imagery do you like and what don't you like? And I think as business owners and especially women, we can not toot our own horns enough or not really, we sort of stay in the background a little bit. So instead of asking people, I have a process that I take people through that asks side questions that go in the side door of their brains to pull out the information that they may not know. So that information is still all based on their expertise, like they're the experts on their business, but I just pull it out in a way that may not be stuck in the box that they have in their head of how their business is.
Oh, that's so fascinating, right? Because when we have a form, we probably come from one perspective, like that is the way we answer that sort of question, where you're coming at it from a way that reveals really who they truly are, which I love.
Yes.
One of the biggest struggles that women business owners tend to face, in my experience, is really communicating their value. What's your process for turning what might be a big, messy idea about, excuse me, I'm going to do this again. I don't know why I have a frog in my throat. Right. Excuse me. One of the biggest struggles that women business owners face, at least in my experience, is clearly communicating their value. What's your process for turning a business's big kind of messy ideas into a message that actually resonates with its audience?
Oh, yes. Yeah, and I think this is another thing about women business owners is we tend to downplay how wonderful we are. so many women in business that I know are like, oh, it's nothing. No, I just do this thing. So I think that's the first thing is don't rely on your own perception. Get somebody else to look at it for you because you can't see the forest for the trees. But the wonderful thing in that, and I know exactly what you mean about the messiness of what we think we do compared to what our customers and clients see, and distilling that into a simple thing. There's an intersection between what our strengths are as business owners. So that's what my framework helps bring out, is finding out what your strength is as a business owner, and then looking at how your clients talk about you, the words that they use, the problems they have and the solutions, and finding that intersecting point. So that not only creates a clear message, but one that is really unique to you.
Oh, I love that. Because, the brand is really in the eye of the customer.
Yes.
Right? How are we received as a brand, rather than, making sure what we're projecting is what someone else is perceiving, because that, identifying with a brand, I know the brands that I love most, I feel an affinity with, I feel my identity is kind of tied in with their identity as well in some way, or I see a part of me in them. And I think that's especially relevant when we're a small brand, when we're a solopreneur, when we're a personal brand.
Absolutely.
Nodding.
Yes, it's absolutely a meeting point. And so often when you get into business, the focus is all on the customer, find out your avatar, know your customer in depth, and then create what they want. But it's so much more powerful if we can take who we are and our strengths and our customers and meet each other in the middle. And so that's what branding can do in terms of identity, because branding is about identity, is trying to project that identity that creates the perception that your customers want to have. Because you're right. I can't remember who said it, but they said a brand is what your customers think of you. So our brand can help us portray that in the way that we want them to see us.
And that's so interesting, because as someone who I acquired this business when it was called something else, and it never really felt like me, but I maintained that brand. And I mean, this is probably not a regular situation, but sometimes we can start a brand and it's not really who we are, or we've taken on a name that we think, oh, that sounds like a good idea or a way for me to stand out. And so for almost 20 years, I had a brand that I didn't have the affinity with. I didn't really feel like it was really me. And when sales and selling what you do is such an important part and often a tricky part about running your business, if you don't fully own your brand and that identity, it can make sales so much harder. And I know for me, establishing what my brand was and really having it be something that was very congruent with me made sales so much easier. Can you speak to that?
Oh, so yes, this is a great question. Yes, so your brand should go out before you. So before customers meet you, and for some product businesses, customers never meet the business owner.
Right.
So your brand should be the thing that goes out before you, that sells before you even get there. So it should set expectations of who you are, how your process works, how your product is delivered, so that by the time the customer gets to you, if they do, it's just about checking if it's a good fit and then offering a solution. And if your brand has done the work, then it just should be, if you're the right fit, it should just be a no-brainer to go, oh, we'd love to work together, rather than trying to convince or sell or use all these sales techniques that people need to use.
Yeah, so good. I love that it's going out there ahead of you. And it really is, because someone's visiting your website, they see a flyer, the proposal lands on its desk, whatever it is, they see you walk into a room, your brand is already speaking something. And so how aligned is it to who you are and who you want to serve? And for many, especially small business owners, especially those on a budget, but not exclusively them, it can sometimes feel like we are throwing spaghetti against the wall when it comes to our marketing, and one thing doesn't match with the other thing. And if you go to my website, that looks different to what my lead magnets look like, looks different to how I look on social media, et cetera, et cetera. So for those of us who might have a little bit of a throwing spaghetti against the wall feel to our brand, what could we do today to start creating a more strategic and brand-aligned marketing approach?
Yeah, this is such a good question, and one of my favourite questions for the people that come to me, and I see sometimes struggling with that, is don't change it until you know what's broken. I just wish I could say that to everybody. So I see so many business owners putting things out there, and when I ask things like, well, what was the engagement on Instagram? How many people clicked on your link tree? How many people went to your website? There's programs called Hotjar where you can see how far people scroll down your page, what they're clicking on. They just look at me and go, what? Huh? And so they're assuming that what they put out is somehow flawed or just no good. It could be an offer or an ad, and they're just like, it was crap. I've got to go back to the drawing board. When if you follow those clues, those little clues along the way that, maybe people scrolled but they didn't click, it's like, well, they scrolled, so they must be interested, but something's holding them back. And then becoming a bit of a sleuth, a bit of a detective, and going, well, why? What? I know these people. Well, what is missing on this page to make them feel safe to click? Or if it's an engagement thing, like nobody engaged on a social media post, like was it all the content, or was it just that it wasn't a strong enough hook at the beginning? So really get into those details rather than throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak.
I love hearing your brilliance. I've seen way too many small business owners go, well, I just need a new logo, or I'm just going to redo all my branding, but there's really no basis. They haven't got the statistics. They haven't looked at, okay, where are people going? What are they actually responding to? They just know that there's not as much money in the bank at the end of the day as they want. And so they think, well, if I just invest in a rebrand, but maybe they don't know their ideal client. They don't have a good product service mix. There could be so many things but they think, oh, well, if I just change the look, feel, they will buy. So we know that's not true.
Yes, absolutely. And the look and feel, like you can just change a look and feel, but to what? And so my brand framework process, it goes through 4 sections. So first we look at the founder, like who the founder is and their values and what they stand for, because the more your brand stands for something really strongly, the more people will engage with it. And then we look at the marketing, like how are you getting people to your business? What sort of marketing do you like to do as the type of founder you are? Then the brand strategy, and then only then, once we've got that strategy solid with your customers, competitors, we've positioned you as in a really good niche in your industry, then we look at the pretty stuff.
Oh, I love that, right? Because often it's the opposite.
Yes.
That people are doing. And so they're not being strategic. And this is what you help clients do, to be really strategic about their brand. Now, you mentioned your framework a couple of times. I want to dive into that because it's the brand archetypes for small business framework. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is, what it's designed to do, and the kind of analysis that allows us to give great benefit to how we operate and run our businesses?
Yes, sure. So this is one of my favorite things. So I've spent about 5 years perfecting this framework. And yes, there is, if a lot of people are aware, or you may have seen it, there is a framework called brand archetypes. It's like the sage and the girl next door and there's 12 of them anyway. And so I started using them in my own branding, but it just wasn't landing right. There were things that it said, if you are this sort of person, then this is what your brand should look like. But that wasn't actually translating into the type of people I was working with. And so what I sort of figured out is that they're all built around really like the big Fortune 500 companies, the massive companies like the Disneys and Patagonia and the big American companies that have multiple teams and multiple layers of management, where they need something to grasp onto, like an identity. For that brand to stay cohesive and coherent across all those people. Whereas when you look at businesses of our size, usually the founder, there's usually not a management structure in yet, or the founder is involved in all the day-to-day operations mostly. So what I've done is changed it to be more around who the founder is. So looking at different types of founder personalities and then structuring those brands to support their strengths, what they're good at, and also avoid what they don't like. Like I've got one client, she runs a linen company, and her brand archetype is the truth seeker, or what I also call the invisible founder. So these people do not want to be seen. They do not want to be the face of their business. They don't want phone numbers on their websites. But when she was setting up her business, all the advice that she was getting was like, you have to put a founder story up or people aren't going to engage with you. You have to put your phone number on your website or, you won't get calls. And she was like, I can't do this. This is just not me. So knowing her archetype as the introverted truth seeker, these people love details and love research. And so what she did with her linen company, she found there was a lot of confusion with thread count. And so she went to Israel, to Portugal, to all these places around the world, visiting, cotton factories and how to make sheets. And she made this incredibly technically advanced sheet. And so that's what we centered her brand around, her technical expertise. And now she gets, there's so many conversations on forums like Reddit, that are organically, people are talking about the technical expertise of this. And so she doesn't have to do photo shoots with interior design, which she's like, I don't know about interior design and how to make a bed, that I don't know about that. So she doesn't have to do photo shoots. She doesn't have to have a phone number on there. There's not a picture of her on the internet anywhere.
Interesting.
And it all runs through this strength of hers while while avoiding, well, I don't know if they're weaknesses, stresses, I call them, stresses rather than weaknesses.
And because what can be more comforting than feeling like you're being truly you and expressing yourself for who you really are and not feeling like you have to do stuff that really rubs you up the wrong way. Now, for someone else, having their photos up there, beaming and smiling and having the phone numbers and all the social channels, that might be the perfect thing for their brand. And I'm sure that your analysis, your framework would help them identify that. One of the places that a lot of us spend a lot of time representing our brands is in the content that we create, whether that's blog posts, podcasts, videos, social posts, etc. Talk to us a little bit about maintaining brand consistency when it comes to creating content.
Oh, yes, this is a good one as well. So I'm going to say something maybe
I'm full of good questions.
So I'm going to say something maybe a little bit controversial and say your brand should not be creative.
Oh, what does that mean?
So the process of creating your brand is creative. But once it's creative, just like any other business asset, it should be a repeatable system that anybody in your team can use. So what I see is sometimes business owners fiddling about with the creativity. Like, branding and content is a little bit of fun. And so people start to try and express their creativity through their brands. But really, once it's set up, it should be a templated system that saves you time and that you can roll out and creates, how many times do people have to see us now? Is it like 15 or something before people buy with us? And so the more consistent it is and the more often find that people are saying, yeah, but everybody's getting bored of what I put out, or I look the same. It's like, yes, you look the same, so you're memorable. It's not boring, it's memorable. So that would be the thing I would say, is just don't mess with your templates. Set it up, make it repeatable, have a range of templates. So maybe it's not boring. You can have a different look for sales, a different look for a different product, but it's still all a system.
Okay, I love that. And it makes sense when it's a visual representation of your brand. What if the content I'm creating is I'm doing reels on Instagram? How do I maintain brand integrity in that sort of instance?
Yes. So the thing that with socials and reels is you don't have your logo there to support you. So the thing is, when you're scrolling, someone should be able to know it's you without seeing your logo. So it's like, well, if my logo is not my brand, like, what do I use then? So it's about picking a number of styles. So if you've got some people work on content pillars, I've seen, and some people work on business outcomes. So they have, content that is just meant for awareness, content that is meant to make an offer, content that is made to grow their email list with lead magnets, that they have a similar look and feel. So if you look at the lighting you use, make sure that the lighting's always the same if it's a video, the same background in your photos. Or some people are, some people might make a space in their studio where they sit and they say the same thing all the time. And then other people are out and about, but they're always, maybe at the beach or something like that. So if it's videos, just make sure you don't have to keep finding new places to do things all the time.
That's so interesting. There's a woman that I met in Austin last year, and she specializes in working with intuition. And she has grown her following through the roof by producing a daily video. They're no more than, 60 seconds long. She's always in the same sort of background, like she changes her clothes, obviously. But if you look at her feed, it's her. It's her. She's pretty much positioned the same way, and she's sharing some new piece of content. There's someone else my partner was telling me about who, this sounds a bit dangerous, but he is always in his car. And he's got the camera, and they're always consistent. And I know for me, I do a lot of it in my house, and I keep finding different spots. But I guess after a while, people will recognize that it's the same environment. But I keep thinking, I really should find more backgrounds. But you're saying that's not necessary.
No, actually, and this is the same for me as well. The accounts that I love the most, like you flick, and then because the background's the same, you don't have to process it. You don't have to process it. Sorry. So when you flick, if it's someone that you've seen before, you're like, oh, it's them, they're back. Whereas if they're always in different places, it takes you a moment to go, oh yeah, that's them. But when you just see that same visual and you associate it in your head with a pleasant feeling that you had last time you watched them, then you just settled in not to flick.
That's great. And then as we translate that to other types of content, that means your newsletter has a similar feel every time someone receives it. That means that your emails have a similar feel. That means if you have a podcast and it starts kind of the same way, it has you're not surprising people like, oh, okay, well, that's not who I thought I was listening to. So just having that brand consistency, once you've done the work with someone like Naomi and really identified who that is, then it becomes a bit of a cookie cutter. And the thing is, that takes the guesswork out. It makes it easy for your team. It makes it easy for you. It's one less thing to think about when you don't have to get creative every time you produce a piece of content. My next question is that you've worked with so many businesses to refine their brands and their messaging. What is the biggest mistake that you find entrepreneurs, especially owners of small businesses, make when it comes to their branding and their marketing, and any suggestions for addressing that issue that you see over and over again?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it is not having clear positioning. So it's not something, I don't know if it's something that we talk about a lot, but it's making that and so positioning is maybe a little bit different to niche. You've got your niche, but then still in that niche, how are you different? So I have a statement that I run people through. So everyone that comes through my brand strategy program, we try to answer the question. There's the sentence that, let me just look at this. We are the only X who does X for X. So you are the only what do you do? Who do you do it for? And how do you do it differently? So when you can answer that statement, the aim is to make you a company of one. So like a monopoly, I guess. So there's no competition in this little piece of the world that you have carved out for yourself. So if you can try and answer that statement and really look through what you do, and people may say, but I'm in this competitive industry where we all offer the same thing. It's like, yes, but is your service experience different? Is the way you offer it different? Like the Dollar Shave guys with they took razors that's the same and changed the way that it was offered. And then it was they're the only people that did that I think they still are. I don't know if they still are actually. But yeah, so how can you use your service offering, product offering, service experience, something technical innovation to make you a company of one?
So tell me the sentence again. We are the only X. Could you just say it again?
We are the only X that does X for X. So you're going to fill in the X's.
Right. Love it. And that's very simple, very repeatable. I would love for women to have the opportunity to discover their brand archetype. So you have a new quiz. We're going to put a link to that in the show notes. And as you're listening, I'm going to give you the link to the show notes in just a moment. And over on the show notes page, you'll also find details of how you can get in touch with Naomi if you want to go deeper into doing some work on your particular brand. And that's especially if you're a small business owner and you're not looking at the big branding agencies. You're looking for someone who understands what it's like to be a solopreneur or a very small business with a small team, but looking to really have your brand speak for you. Now, before we started talking about this conversation, you and I were having a conversation about one of the aspects that is part of the Her Business community that we include in our membership, and that is to have an accountability group. And we call them growth groups, as you know, Naomi. And you said, I have the best growth group in the network.
I know it's a bit arrogant of me, maybe, but
no, not at all. I love it. And so accountability groups are groups of like-minded women of similar sized businesses with similar length of time in business or similar sized teams. Anyway, they have some common elements that makes them good growth group buddies. And you've been in your group for a while. Just tell us a little bit about the benefits for you and, as you see it, the other members in the group of being part of this ongoing structure that supports accountability.
Yeah, it's absolutely accountability, and it's also camaraderie, I think. The small business world can be really lonely. Sometimes you feel like you're really in it on your own. And even if you sort of meet people, you don't get that bond where you feel like you can just drop your bundle or, ask this thing or go, oh, I'm failing. I don't know what I don't know what I should do. But with the growth group, so our growth group, I think we've been together for over a year, maybe, a year and a half.
Yeah, at least I'd say. Mm-hmm.
At least, I think. And we meet fortnightly. And the wonderful thing is that, yes, we're in a similar stage of business. So you know that when you are coming with a problem or something you're not sure of, that they're going to get it. They're at sort of the same level. We're at the same level as each other. And they all have quite different skills. So you're tapping into like experts. There's marketing, advertising, websites, coaching, accounting, all sorts of things that we can tap into each other and to say how would you approach this. And at the end of every session, so we get, I think, 10 minutes each, and you always get a nugget of gold to just get to that next level.
Well, congratulations on the length of time that you've been in your growth group. And the thing with this sort of thing is it takes a little time to get to know each other, trust each other, be able to second guess, what that person really needs, whether you're being the cheerleader on the sidelines or whether you're being that gentle nudge in their back that says, come on, you said you wanted this. Now let's take some action. And so that's the power of the accountability groups. And if you're listening and you are a member of the Her Business Network, you definitely want to apply to be part of a growth group. And if you're listening and you're not a member of the Her Business Network, simply head to herbusinessnetwork.com to join the wait list for the next time we open the doors. Now, Naomi, at Her Business, as you know, our tagline is do what you love every day. So what does a perfect day in business life look like for you when you are doing what you love?
I'm a lover of puzzles. So I love nothing more than sitting down in my little creative cave, I call it, and figuring out puzzles, whether that's, how to make someone stand out in their market, or looking at all their website and social media data, trawling through it and finding, what's the thing that's not working and where. So they're the things that really, really excite me. I love my clients as well, but part of my brand archetypes is the brand archetype I am is an introvert. So I love my people, but I love being away in my creative cave finding solutions.
Well, I can't wait to do the quiz and find out what mine is. I kind of have a feeling, but it's interesting, right, to see how we perceive ourselves and how it actually shows up. Thank you so much for joining me here on the show. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Oh, no, thank you for having me. It's just been, it's been wonderful to be here. And I really love being, just for anybody out there who's listening, being part of this network is such an enriching and inspiring experience.
Thank you, Naomi.
Wow, right? What a gold mine of knowledge. I love what Naomi said about getting to the heart of your brand, really getting to the core. Because if you have felt that the way people perceive you is inconsistent, if you know that your brand looks a bit hodgepodge at the moment, here's the thing, it's not time for yet another logo. It's not time for an expensive website makeover. So log out of Canva and all the enticing templates and really do the work on what's going to give you consistent and powerful branding in the long run. And doing that work is so worth it. You heard me mention to Naomi a little bit about the big rebranding that we did about 8 years ago with her business. Long-time listeners will know that we used to be called the Australian Business Women's Network, and that was a name that we had acquired when I acquired the business. And it just wasn't representative of who I was, who we had become as a community. It didn't feel like it was representative of the soul of the business, of the connections that were being created and the growth and results that the women inside of her business were getting. So while it was not as easy as getting a new logo, it was worth the work because it let us cater to who we really wanted to be seen as, which meant in turn it would bring in the type of women who wanted to find their home inside of her business. And I feel like I could talk about this topic forever, especially after the gold that Naomi just gave us. But here's what I'm going to recommend. Go ahead and take the quiz. It's the Brand Archetype for Small Business quiz that Naomi mentioned and that she created to help you discover your marketing advantage. It's kind of a multiple choice questions, and then in the end, there's tells you what your profile is, and you have the opportunity to work more closely with Naomi should you choose to. But it'll be illuminating on its own. I'm going to put a link to that as well as all of Naomi's contact details over at herbusiness.com/303. So that's where you'll find anything we referenced here today, herbusiness.com/303. Now, I love our members. I love it when I hear from a member that I haven't heard from in a while. And more than 20 years ago, a member named Kate Tribe was in our network. She had her own market research business, and she had that for many, many years. And she was very instrumental in helping us really get to know our ideal clients and how they perceived us in every which way. She then went on to get a high-paying corporate job, and she worked in corporate for a number of years. Now she's an artist living in the Southern Highlands where she draws on inspiration from nature, travel, and urban landscapes. And she creates hand-embroidered contemporary artwork, mainly using cross-stitch as her medium. So she was a business owner, then she became an employee and a large corporation, and then she's a business owner again and a creative. And over on Instagram, she said this. She said, "Is taking more walks an activity you promise you'll get better at?" She said, "I'm good at taking walk breaks in some locations, but not others. I want to bring regular walks back into my lifestyle, and expanding my podcast list will help." And she said, currently I'm listening to, and she mentioned 3 podcasts. And one of them was this very Her Business podcast. She said, "I always take away 1 or 2 things to implement." And so if you enjoyed this episode, I'm sure that you can take away 1 or 2 things that Naomi mentioned and implement them inside of your business. And of course, if you want to join Naomi and a community of incredible women business owners, then you can head on over to herbusinessnetwork.com to get all the details. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would do us a huge favor and leave a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts. Or you can just direct message me. I answer every message. And the best place to direct message me is over on Instagram. You're going to find us at herbusiness on Instagram. And that's a great account to follow anyway, because we're always dropping these different business tips. But once again, on our website at herbusiness.com/303, you'll find a summary of today's episode, a summary of the great points that Naomi made, and a link to her and to her quiz. So thank you once again, Naomi. Now, if you are new to the show, subscribe wherever you're listening. Even if this is not your first listen, be sure to subscribe. That way you'll get every episode as it comes out. And join me next week right right here on the Her Business podcast. Bye for now.